morning. Today is Thursday, Daled Adar Sheni, Tovshin Ayin Daled. We are in the Mamar. We're in the Sefer Teres Menachem Sefer Mamorim Tovshin Yud Aleph Tovshin Yud Beis. In the Mamar of Shabbos Parshas Vayikra, Gimel Nisan Tovshin Yud Beis. Dibra Maschel Am Zu Yatzarti. We are up to page Reish Nun Gimel, I believe, at the bottom. It's about 2 weeks since our last year, but I believe we're up to page Reish Nun Gimel at the bottom at the word Ukiyodua, the last line by the full stop. Quick synopsis. The Rebbe starts the Maimer on the pasuk of the Haftorah of Parshas Vayikra. Am zu Yatzarti li tilasi yisaperu. This is the nation I created for myself. They will tell my praise. He quoted the Gemara in Menachos that says, he focuses in on the word zu in the pasuk, and he quotes the Gemara that says, May this one come and accept and receive this from this one and give it to this nation. In other words, the word this in Hebrew, whether it's zeh or zu, Lashon Zachar and Lashon Nekeva, refers to Moshe, refers to the Torah, refers to Hashem, and refers to the Jewish people. Let this one come, Moshe, and receive this, the Torah, from this one, meaning Hashem, and give it to this nation, referring to the Jewish people. And for each one of these allusions of Zeh to the four different things that were just enumerated, the Gemara brings proof from a pasuk. And the pasuk that the Gemara brings as proof that the Jewish people are referred to as this is from the pasuk that we just quoted, Am zu Yatzarti li, this nation I created for myself. The Rebbe asked a number of questions. Among them he said, what is the Gemara over there talks about other words that refer to Hashem, the Jewish people, and so on and so forth. Strong, good, friend. So the Rebbe said that all those things denote some kind of quality. What does the word this denote? It seems to be a generic, neutral word. It refers to it as this. And also, why over here is it referred to as Lashon Nekeva, Am zu Yatzarti li. In other places we find that it refers to the Jewish people in Lashon Zachar, in the masculine. Over here he refers to them as zu in the Nekeva and in the feminine. He went in to describe the difference between koi and zeh. All prophets prophesied with the word koi. Koi amar Hashem. Thus spoke Hashem. Like this. Whereas Moshe Rabbeinu prophesied with the word zeh. He explained that the difference between koi and zeh is koi denotes a less visual, direct revelation, as opposed to zeh, which denotes a direct and obvious visual revelation. So in the spiritual sense, zeh means, in simple terms, would mean a greater revelation, a greater gilui. Right? If that's the case, the question becomes even stronger. How could you refer to the Jewish people as Zeh? Here we seem to imply that Zeh, revelation that is denoted in the word Zeh, the very obvious, direct revelation, is a quality which is reserved for a prophet, not only any prophet, but a prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu. And here we say that all the Jewish people are called Zeh.
It's more possessive, it's more individual, it's directed more personally.
Well, here he's talking not, well, you're probably right, but because it works both ways, but here he's focusing more on the revelation. When you say Zeh, it means this, you're actually pointing or you're demonstrating.
Right, it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
Koi means it's a little more distant. It's thus, it's like this. And the words the Gemara uses, one is a revelation through an aspaklaria she'ena me'ira, a non-illuminated magnifying glass, that would be koi. It's as if you're looking at something through, I don't know, something like a distorted magnifying glass. Whereas when you talk about Zeh, it's Aspaklari HaMe'ira, it's an illuminated magnifying glass. It's without any filters, so to speak. So, the Rebbe went on to explain that a Yid could be called Zeh. When? When a Yid is connected to Hashem. Why? Because the only real true existence, if you remember, the Rebbe explained, was Kedusha. Klippa doesn't really and truly exist. Why? Because, and in Kedusha itself, you're really talking about Hashem himself. In other words, any existence that depends on something else doesn't really and truly exist. It doesn't have a dependent existence. So it's not Zeh, it's not this. There's always something behind it. Something greater than it, something that drives it, something that gives it existence. Only something that really and truly exists on its own and needs nothing else for its existence could really and truly be called Zeh. Who is that? Obviously, Hashem. And not just any element of Hashem, as it were, not the revelations of Hashem, but really and truly only the very essence of Hashem. Because any manifestations or revelations of Hashem are always dependent on something greater than it for it to exist. So therefore, a Jew, through the fact that he's connected to Hashem, could be called Zeh. When a Yid is connected to Hashem and Hashem is called Zeh, by virtue of that revelation within a Jew, the Yid could be referred to as Zeh. And who reveals this dimension within a Yid? The Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, the original Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Moshe Rabbeinu of each generation. Because that's his role. The role of Moshe Rabbeinu is to connect and to draw down within the Yid and within worlds, godliness. Right? So now he goes on in chapter 5, and he explained like this. So, but nevertheless, it's said B'loshen Nekeva. Zu, Am Zu Yatzarti, in the feminine. Why? Because this idea of connecting to the very essence of Hashem, by virtue of which a Yid could be referred to as Zeh, or Zu, in the feminine, is only when a Jew fulfills Torah and mitzvahs with Kabbalah Soil, not as a result of a rational understanding that he needs to fulfill the mitzvahs and to learn Torah, but rather because of accepting the yoke. Why? Because the Rebbe explained that if the motivation of the person is anything other than Kabbalah's oil, then there is an interference in the process. There's interference of the person's own existence. So therefore, only when a Yid fulfills Torah and mitzvahs as a result of Kabbalah's oil, without any other motivation, whether it's a rational motivation or the motivation of it, the Torah mitzvahs schlepping him out from all sorts of negative situations. If it's that, then there is interference. If it's with Kabbalah's oil, with the acceptance of yoke, then there's no interference from the existence of the individual. And therefore, when a person fulfills Torah mitzvahs with Kabbalah's oil, with the acceptance of yoke, there is no difference for that person whether he's fulfilling a very easy and light mitzvah or what is perceived to be a very harsh and strict mitzvah. Why? And here, that's where we're up to. Because there's an inherent difference between desire and understanding. Before we go and say that inside, I just want to quote to you from the two sources from two of the sources that they bring in footnote 40. One is from the Rebbe Rashab's Mamar in Tafresh Ayin Ches, and one is from the Kutei Sichos from the Rebbe. The Rebbe Rashab says that the difference between intellect and will or desire is as follows. Intellect is inherently in a state of division, fragmentation. In other words, it relates to each aspect of the intellect individually. And each aspect of the intellect is inherently different from the other. It is not possible for intellect to be present in every aspect of the intellect equally. Why? First of all, there are if you talk about different types of intellect, there are deeper intellects and more superficial intellects. One needs a greater power of intellect, one needs a lesser power of intellect. So you immediately see that that there are differences in the intellect. But even in the same intellect, says the Rebbe Rashab, there's also differences, because a svara sichlis, an intellectual idea, is made up of different components, and those components inherently again are different one from another, and therefore the amount, if you will, or the quality of intellect that needs to be present and possessed within each aspect of the intellect is inherently different. So seichel is bihis chalkos. That's the lashon of Chassidus. It's fragmented. It's different. It's separate. It's different. Rotzen, when a person wants something, he wants it. It's not that he wants. In other words, if he wants a certain result, then he wants all that is necessary for that result to come about. And if one aspect of the result is lacking, then his will hasn't been fulfilled. It's not that part of his will was fulfilled. Unless he wants 2 or 3 things, then you can say, okay, one thing was fulfilled, the second thing wasn't fulfilled, right? But if he wants something which is made up of a number of components, if there's a component lacking, then the desire, then the will hasn't been fulfilled. Right? So that's one way of looking at the difference between seichel and rotzen. Then the Rebbe says something else. Over here on the Kut Sichos, the Rebbe says like this. He brings exactly this nekuda from the Mamar when we talk about Hashem's will. In mitzvahs, you also have different aspects to mitzvahs. You have the fact that one mitzvah brings about one revelation, another mitzvah brings out a lesser revelation, and so on and so forth. One mitzvah has this reason, another mitzvah has another reason. In that sense, you have the delineation between kalas shebakalas and chamuras shebechamuras. The lighter mitzvahs, the easier mitzvahs, and the harsher mitzvahs. But when we talk about rotzen, mitzvahs being Hashem's will, if you're looking at it from the point of view of Hashem's will, there's no difference between one mitzvah and another mitzvah. That's why, for example, the Rebbe says, when a ger comes to convert, a convert has to accept upon himself all the mitzvahs. If a convert accepts upon himself the entire Torah, besides one aspect, even if it's a rabbinic invocation, even if it's a rabbinic mitzvah, you can't accept him as a convert. If somebody says, I accept the entire Torah, besides one little aspect, for example, the pasuk B'nei Kush u'Mitzrayim v'Shem Ishtei Mehitavel. This is a quote from Chumash Bereshis, the Rambam brings it in Pirush Mishnayos, right? He says, I accept everything, the 10 Commandments, the Shema Yisrael, and so on and so forth, every single word of the Torah. Besides one little, which seems to be obscure, pasuk of the Torah, right? It doesn't mean that he's denying one aspect of the Torah. It means he's denying the entire Torah. Why? Because from the point of view of Ratzon Hashem, there is no difference between one and the other. The Ratzon, the Hashem's will is present in everything equally. This is the same word that when you talk about seichel, intellect, it's fragmented. There are delineations, one aspect, another aspect, and so on and so forth. Ratzon is not like that. Ratzon is present in everything equally. Why is that? Because seichel is a keich pnimi. Seichel is an internal type of force, whereas Ratzon is a transcendent force. Keich makif. Seichel, intellect, relates to the aspect, that which you are perceiving. So therefore, to the degree that that which you are perceiving is greater or lesser, that will denote the degree of intellect and the level of intellect, the quality of intellect that you need for that process to perceive that intellect. Whereas Ratzon does not relate so much to that which you desire, but rather to the one that desires, and therefore that desire is present in, irrespective of what the one that desires wants, it is present in the desire and that which one desires equally. So that's the word that when we talk about the difference between kalas shebekalas chamuras shebechamuras, if it's because of Kabbalah's oil, you accept the yoke of heaven, meaning to say I'm fulfilling it because it's Hashem's will, not because of an irrational understanding that this mitzvah is I need to fulfill, and the reasons I need to fulfill them. Therefore, when we fulfill it from that perspective, there's no difference between Kalas Shabakalas and Chamuris Shabachamuris. A few lines inside the bottom of page Nation Gimel. Ukiyadu as is known, Shaharatzin, that desire, Choluk, Mikol HaKoiches HaPnimim Shebenefesh, top of Reish Nun Daled, is different from all the internal faculties of the soul. Shekol HaKoiches HaPnimim, all the internal faculties, Gam Koich HaSeichel, including also the power of intellect, which is the highest of all the internal faculties. Yesh by Mischalkos, all the internal faculties have delineation and fragmentation. For example, when it comes to intellect, Shegam Kasher Mekayim Prat Echad, even when he fulfills one aspect. Azai Yesh B'Yodi Prat Zeh, then he has that aspect. Mashenkin Berotzen, this is not the case when we talk about desire. Im Ein Mekayim Afilu Prat Echad, if he doesn't fulfill even one aspect of what he wants, Azai Chasa Kol Inyan Kol Inyan Rotzen, then the entire idea of desire is deficient. V'hainu, which means to say, when we talk about desire, it's in one of two ways. Is called you either fulfill all the details of the desires, in which case he fulfills the desire, or he doesn't fulfill the will at all. Why? Because he's deficient in one detail, even a small detail. In which case the entire desire is deficient. Continue, Mr. tomorrow.